Why is it that that there is a midrash that says at the time of the Messiah that things that are unkosher will be kosher because will have a greater capacity to raise up sparks even in things that are right now forbidden. But right, the Vilna Gaon would not agree with that. He wouldn't say that there's a spark in everything that can be raised up, even in wickedness, even in evil. But there is a belief on the part of Likutei Amarim, Rabbi Shneur the Chasidim, that God is immanent everywhere. The idea of raising up the sparks from the physical is only mentioned in the Kabbalah of the Arizal, Rabbi Isaac Luria, Levada. And it's not mentioned before the Arizal. And it's not mentioned clearly in the Zohar. We know very clearly that the Gon HaChasid, even Rabbi Shneur Zalman calls the Vilna Gaon Hagon HaChasid, the great Chasid. May his light shine. He says the problem is that the Vilna Gaon does not accept the Kabbalah of the Arizal. He only accepts the Zohar, which was before the Arizal. The Arizal is early 1500s. And he believes that the Kabbalah of the Arizal is from Elijah the prophet. Rak ma'at mazir mipi Eliyahu zal yishir mechachmato gedola ve'en chil v'hamin ba. So he's saying here that the Kabbalah of the Zohar that was received from Eliyahu Hanavi, you don't have to believe in. Let's see this note here. Rav Chaim Volozhin, Rav Chaim Volozhiner, who was a student of the Vilna Gaon, says in his introduction to the Vilna Gaon's book, which is called Sifra D'Tzniuta, Maskiv Kashios Kushos et Eila Shalilu Alagrasha Zilzabari. He asks questions. Rabbi Chaim Volozhiner, the student of the Vilna Gaon, asks questions on the Vilna Gaon, why the Vilna Gaon does not accept the Kabbalah of the Arizal. Midei Dabri B'Gedolos Miniflos Kedushas Tarasa Sharabenu Agadol. Zacharias Karenu Asher Tasuach Olai Nafshi Biakod Yakud Libi Keish Boeres Asher Lakha Aznai Dibas Rabim Borim Rikim B'Felech B'Felchim Harchokim Asher Lo Res Tarasa V'Deshas Miyameim. There are people who live far away that have not seen the holiness and the Torah of the Vilna Gaon. Anshe Blial B'Pebalashim and the Beres Kedolos La'atil Mum B'Kodshe Shemayim Zivuvei Maves La'avish La'aviv Hashem Rakev Mishkat Kodesh. People speak against the Vilna Gaon, that he didn't believe. People say about the Vilna Gaon that he didn't accept the Arizal's Kabbalah at all. So people even say that the Vilna Gaon didn't accept the Zohar, God forbid. And this note. And so I guess Rav Chaim Volozhiner writes that which Rabbi Shneur Zalman wrote about the Vilna Gaon, that he didn't believe in the Kabbalah of the Arizal, interesting. So Rav Chaim Volozhiner argues against this idea. In other words, here Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi is saying the problem is the Vilna Gaon just doesn't believe in the Kabbalah of the Arizal, and Rav Chaim Volozhiner apparently disagreed with Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi about that. I guess felt the Gaon did believe in the Kabbalah of the Arizal, but of course that doesn't explain why he was so opposed to the Chasidim. Okay, let's see, that was note number 7. The Gam HaKetuvim Nishbashu mode, and he says also the writings are mixed up. Lisha Sherelelo Lo HaMishpat HaBrira Livchor Lo HaTov HaYashar Yikol Kitvei HaKodesh Kadosh Ma'arizal Shlok Perushatenu. He says, how can you actually judge? He says, to say that, the writing of the Zohar is from Eliyahu Hanavi, but the writing of the Arizal does not come from Elijah the prophet. So, just because the Gaon rejects certain things in Kabbalah doesn't mean that we're at fault. Gamim Yomer is a pirish bekitvei Arizal, Yabin biaskil shekol mishein umamin. And even if you reject something from the Arizal's Kabbalah, that doesn't mean you should be opposed to anybody else who accepts it. It's interesting. Rabbi Shneur Zalman of Liadi is basically shrinking the machloket, this argument between the Chasidim and the Snagdim. It's like zooming it down just to be about a Kabbalistic disagreement. In a certain sense, it's a straw man because, he's saying, if this is just about a Kabbalistic disagreement, the Vilna Gaon doesn't accept the Arizal, and we do. So, what legitimacy is there in that? And he's right. That doesn't seem so legitimate. But obviously, for the Vilna Gaon, there's much more going on here. He's worried about the dangers, I think, of Chassidut writ large, that it's a new movement. He's saying, let the Jewish people basically decide, let the rabbis decide, is it acceptable to believe in the Kabbalah of the Arizal? He says that the wise rabbis of the Sephardic Jews, that the Sephardic rabbis did accept the Chasidim, he's saying early on, because they accepted the Arizal. The Arizal, of course, was a Sephardi. So that's interesting that obviously Sephardic rabbis did accept the Arizal. And it's not like the Vilna Gaon has a war against the Sephardim. I think the problem here is that the Vilna Gaon's war against the Chassidim isn't just about, this Kabbalistic question. I don't mean just about. That's a very big question, but I think it's more than that. Even though the Vilna Gaon does write that the Vilna Gaon himself really does think it's more about the Kabbalistic issue. Interesting. Okay, so that's an interesting thing. In other words, in this polemic, I think we're at a moment in this polemic where it's 25 years later, and basically the Gaon's shrinking it down to a Kabbalistic question, leads the Rebbe Shneur Zalman to basically say, there's nothing wrong, let this be a machloket in Kabbalah. But of course, I think in a certain sense, the war against Chasidim is more than that. Although the Vilna Gaon, in his own letter, did kind of zoom it down to a Kabbalistic question. But of course, then it just becomes an argument in Kabbalah. So anyway, okay, we'll finish this letter hopefully tomorrow.
Thank you.
Hey, Rabbi.
Yeah.
The statistic you cited at the beginning on the number of Chabad houses, what was the time period of the expansion? Could you just say it again?
Well, I think it's been 20 years. That's
so
what
post the Rebbe, it's gone from, did you say 1,000 to 5,000?
He said 1,000 something to 5,000 something. This I was talking to Rabbi Newman yesterday from Arlington. And, it's obvious that Chabad has grown a tremendous amount. And he said to me, there's a line of Kola guys that want to go out and start Chabad houses in places where there are, a few hundred Jews. I'm like, that's amazing, but yeah, it's interesting. It's also, well, I was saying to him, they have a Kabbalistic reason for why they think it has multiplied so much since the Rebbe died, based on the Zohar. And I said, I know the Kabbalistic reason. I said, but from a rational point of view, why do you think this is? He didn't have a great answer to that, but it's interesting that it has. It's
just fascinating that a movement built on since the beginning on an intercessor and a physical leader could be essentially leaderless and expand.
It's amazing.
Fascinating.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fast. Somebody needs to like really figure it out. Yeah. So anyway,
All right, thanks.
okay, be well.